Hold up.
Hi guys, my name is Marissa. Welcome to my first video on this channel. I'm so excited to be filming for you guys. I'm really excited to start this journey on YouTube. YouTube is my pastime. I love to watch YouTube videos. I have a wide genre of videos that I like to watch, but in particular I find myself watching videos like this on true crime, missing persons, etc. So intriguing, and I'm really passionate about circulating information is all I'm intending to do with these videos. I just want to give you guys the information, the facts, the theories. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. I'm just gonna get started. I know I'm gonna have so much to improve on, but that's what you guys are for. If you could let me know in the comments what you would like to see different or what I could improve, that would be great. So let's just go ahead and get started. So today's video is on a 12-year-old boy that went missing in Greenwich, New York on November 1st of 2007. His name was Jaliek Rainwalker. He was born August 2nd of 1995 in Albany, New York, where he was born, unfortunately addicted to crack cocaine and alcohol, and within months of being born he was taken away from his mother and put into foster care. Jaliek was sexually abused as an infant and ultimately was put in and out of foster care homes for many, many years. In roughly 6 to 7 foster homes before he got adopted. And if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to mess up any dates or times. On May 4th of 2004, Jaliek was finally adopted to his new family, Jocelyn McDonald and Stephen Kerr, along with their 4 children, their 3 biological sons, and 1 other adoptive daughter. Now, Jaliek was kind of a hard child to manage. He was diagnosed with RAD, which is reactive attachment disorder. He had a lot of behavioral issues, which caused him to be kind of withdrawn, kind of depressed, and just a sad child. Although his grandmother, Barbara Reilly, going to be so important in this case, absolutely adored her grandson and said that he was so sweet, he had a beautiful smile, and although it was sometimes hard to communicate with him, she had the time of her life with him and she misses him dearly. So now, knowing a little bit about Jaliek's backstory and his troublesome upbringing, let's talk about his appearance. Stephen, Jaliek's adoptive dad, had just picked up Jaliek from a respite care home in Albany, New York, where he had been for the past 6 days. Now, a respite care home is basically where you could send your special needs children or disabled adults or the elderly, anyone that really needs care and patience and time. You can send them to this facility for X amount of days and they will take care of them for you. Jaliek had been at the respite care for 6 days. Stephen wants to pick him up, take him home, spend the night with him, and to send him to another respite care in the morning. Sadly, Jaliek would have never made it to that respite care the next morning. Jaliek was last publicly seen at a Red Robin with Stephen around 6:45 p.m. in Latham, New York. Now, according to Stephen, they ate dinner and they made their way back to the Greenwich home that they were staying at 11 Hill Street in Greenwich, New York. Now, this wasn't the family's home. This was Jaliek's grandparents' home, who were out of town. From what I could tell with my research, Jocelyn and the 4 children had all come to the conclusion they did not want Jaliek in the home that night. They weren't comfortable with him and his behavior, and they wanted Stephen to just stay with him at the house in Greenwich and send him to another respite care home in the morning to further help him with his behavioral issues, because the family was not comfortable with Jaliek being around the siblings at this time because his behavior was just so unmanageable, according to Jocelyn and Steve. Jaliek's father, Stephen, says they went to bed. Jaliek was in a bad mood. I'm assuming he was probably upset. His family had just sent him away and we're going to send him away again tomorrow, and maybe he didn't like it there, or maybe he did. No one ever really knows. This is all Stephen's perspective, mind you. So Stephen says they went to bed around 9 o'clock. He woke up at 7:10 a.m. and Jaliek was nowhere to be found. He checked his room, was not to be seen, but he did find a note. Now I'm going to look down so I don't mess up what the note said. But Stephen says he found a note from Jaliek. And it read, "Dear everybody, I'm sorry for everything. I won't be a bother anymore. Goodbye, Jaliek." 90 minutes later, Stephen called the Greenwich Police and reported Jaliek as a runaway. Now, this note And this terminology of runaway is very, very important in this case. Till this day, Stephen Kerr and Jocelyn McDonald firmly believe Jaliek just ran away. And on the outside looking in, without doing too much investigating, the circumstances where he's going to be sent to a respite home again in the morning, which maybe he didn't want to do, didn't agree with, he just wanted to be home with his family, also seems to be a runaway note. I mean, it kind of seems obvious he ran away. He knew for sure Jaliek ran away, and that he most likely went to Albany or New York City, because he had expressed many times before that that's where he would love to live. Jaliek was last seen wearing a yellow fleece pull-up hoodie, blue jeans, and black canvas high-top shoes. He had a speech impediment where he said his R's like W's. He also had several moles on his back. He was 5'6", weighed 106 pounds at the time of his disappearance. He was biracial, half African American, half Caucasian. He did not have a cell phone. He had no cash, no credit card, no license, or anything like that. 12 years old at the time of his disappearance. So, with all that in consideration, the police did investigate it initially as a runaway, but considering the circumstances where the child had no phone, no means of transportation, no money, didn't appear to take anything with him, like no bags or anything like that, and also November in the state of New York. Now, I don't know where you're from, but I am from New York, and in November it is absolutely freezing. It was about 19 degrees that night from the research I could find, so they started to actually think it kind of wasn't plausible for a child to just run away under these circumstances, with the weather and whatnot and his resources. So starting that morning, they did water searches, air searches, ground searches. They were looking everywhere for Jaliek. The parents had put up posters, the grandparents had put up posters. Everyone was just wondering, where is Jaliek, and how could he have gotten very far? I mean, he would have been on foot at this point unless he had hitchhiked. So they were plastering his picture everywhere. So this is 4 days after the disappearance of Jaliek. The parents were asked to take a polygraph. Now, Jocelyn passed it, but Stephen to this day refuses to take a polygraph. So in my eyes, that kind of seems a little odd that he wouldn't just take the polygraph test. Granted, polygraphs usually cannot be used in court in most cases. They're not the most reliable, but the fact that you won't even take one is kind of concerning. After Stephen failed to take the polygraph test, they actually hired an attorney, and that was that. They no longer wanted to cooperate with the investigation. They just told media, told friends and family that Jaliek just ran away and he will come back if he wants to come back, or when he wants to come back. So I have to applaud the police in this situation. A lot of the times runaway cases just get labeled as a runaway and that's it. They don't investigate further. But I feel like they did a really good job, and they did searches for Jaliek. It never stopped. The tips never stopped coming in. Something huge brought up in the case. The note that was found that Stephen claims is a runaway note was actually an assignment Stephen had assigned to Jaliek to write to all the people he has hurt and apologize. Now, the respite care home he was in prior to his disappearance, the family there recognized the note, and they said not a runaway note. Jaliek would not have run away. He wrote it as an assignment from Stephen, apologizing to all the people he's hurt in his life. So as soon as the police heard that, everything's, kicked off from there. January of 2008, Kerr was listed as a person of interest in the case when all of his alibi started to crumble. So first the note, which was totally discredited, and Stephen would have known that that note was a homework assignment because he is the one that assigned it. So it was very odd that he took that note as evidence that Jaliek had run away. There was a surveillance footage around midnight on Main Street, 3 or 4 minutes from Jaliek, where Jaliek and Stephen spent the night. There was footage of his minivan driving past. Now, till this day, they have not gotten a warrant to look at Stephen's actual van, being the same make and model and color, in that area on that night, around midnight when Stephen says that they were asleep. That was just another added dig to the detective's case against Stephen. A week prior to Jaliek's disappearance on October 23rd, 2007, Stephen had actually called a crisis hotline inquiring on how to reverse an adoption. It was clear that they didn't want him in their home anymore. They were not comfortable with him staying around the other children, and apparently the siblings were afraid of him at one point. The crisis worker organized respite care for Jaliek, and that was when Stephen had sent him to that respite care home for 6 days. According to the adoptive parents, Jaliek had homicidal and suicidal thoughts up to the period of his disappearance, yet they had not taken him to be evaluated, and he was not on any type of psychotherapy medications. During all this investigation against Stephen, who seemed to be the only possible person of interest at the time, the family, Jocelyn, the 4 children, and Stephen actually moved to another state. They moved to Vermont, and they live there till this day. And they don't check up on Jaliek's case. They don't call the detective. The only person active in this case, actually, is Jaliek's adoptive grandmother, Barbara Riley. Now, she's just a badass, let me tell you. She has not stopped looking for Jaliek. She puts visuals, she has the Facebook page, she's got the blog. She is in constant contact with the detectives on Jaliek's case. She's always putting up posters, going on to the media, talking about Jaliek and how she is not giving up finding him. Police had confiscated Stephen's phone. They put together a timeline of how long it should have taken them to get from the respite care home to the Red Robin in Latham, New York, and to Greenwich, the house in Greenwich, New York, because according to Stephen, they didn't make any other stops. Now, the cell phone towers that he was picking at put him in a totally different route than he had told police he took that night. So he was not where he said he was. The timeline didn't add up. There were so many contradicting information and statements. Back to the grandmother, Barbara Riley. In a media interview, she actually told them that Stephen had anger issues, and she had once witnessed Stephen dragging Jaliek into their backyard of their home into a creek and dunking his head underwater for misbehaving. She said that 125% believes Stephen knows something or did something and is not letting the police know. With that information, the police actually changed the status of Jaliek's case from a missing person to a presumed homicide. 5 years and 43 days after his date of disappearance, they did change the status to a presumed homicide, with Stephen being the main person. In July of 2008, Barbara was actually charged with first burglary when she broke into Stephen and Jocelyn's home after they had moved to Vermont. She was, like I said, she's a badass. She broke in the yellow fleece jacket that Stephen said Jaliek was wearing at the time of his disappearance. Everyone was depending on Stephen's statement that he was wearing that yellow fleece jacket, and it turns out it was at the home this entire time. So that's so extremely frustrating, and like I said, the detectives on this case have not given up, and they have even expressed that they don't want to risk jeopardy where they try Stephen for the murder of Jaliek without a body is kind of difficult to do, and if he is found not guilty for that, they can never try him again if Jaliek's body does show up. So they're just basically holding out until they find his body. They searched the Hudson River, they've searched everywhere that Jaliek could have gone. So now let's get into the theories. The theories really are cut and dry. Either Jaliek ran away, there's the theory that Jaliek committed suicide, and then there's the theory that Stephen had killed Jaliek, which is the one most people believe, and his grandmother Barbara believes, and the chief police believe. They just cannot prove. With all that information, what do you guys think? Do you think Stephen did it? Do you think Jaliek just ran away in his own will, that he was sick of living with the family that didn't even want him, his behavioral issues or his mental issues just became too much? Do you think he committed suicide? Although it just seems very hard to believe that a 12-year-old would have this plan to run away with nothing on him, no cash, no credit, no phone, no plan as far as anyone can tell. It just doesn't seem likely, especially in the middle of winter. Doesn't seem likely to me. The most likely option, Stephen killed Jaliek. He was sick of dealing with him. He didn't want him anymore. He was told he couldn't reverse the adoption, and Stephen got rid of him. I just don't understand how they have not found his body. It's been such a long time. And I just feel so horrible for Barbara, who seems to be the only person in his family that actually cares. So what do you guys think? I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. It's just really saddening that it's a child, that he will never get justice. Just have to have hope that one day somebody says something or saw something, even if it seems irrelevant. please, if you know of anything regarding this case, just speak up. Call the hotline. I'll leave it in the description box below. And that's the end of the case. I wish I had more answers, but unfortunately I do not. If you like this kind of video, please give my channel a like, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next Sunday.